I don't know where to look.
Hey everybody, it's Donna Cravata, and we're back with the Real 50 Over 50 again. And this is one of our wisdom panels. And we are celebrating Black women in art today. And I'm really excited to have a couple of very creative, very talented women with us. Patricia Andrews-Keenan. Um, after a long career in PR and corporate communications, she left it all behind and launched Pigment International, a Black women-founded and led multimedia art platform that reports on the art, people, issues, trends, and events shaping Black contemporary art and examining the linkages connecting historical and contemporary Black art. And she's invited some of the artists from her community to join us in the panel today. D. Lammy Hansen, her career has spanned more than 25 years, and a few highlights include an exhibition at the UN Geneva Palace in Switzerland in support of their efforts to address global homelessness, and being chosen as the Artist of the Year for Brooklyn Academy of Music's BAM Dance Africa. Jade Williams, our only woman under the age of 50 so far, is an interdisciplinary artist and designer whose practice reflects the ways that she engages in the radical traditions of adornment, collecting, and congregating. Her works have been exhibited at spaces including the Krannert Art Museum, the Evanston Art Center, the Leather Archives and Museum, Slate Arts and Performance Center, and Women Made Galleries. So that's a lot of experience in the room here, and I believe you're all in Chicago, right? In
Yes,
the Chicago area. Okay, so I just wanted to give a little brief background. If people come in the conversation, we'll kind of bring them in here as well. But Pat, would you like to kind of, you know, talk
I'd love
about how
to.
how
Yeah,
you moved from what you were doing to what you're doing now, and how everybody else fits into this conversation?
absolutely. So, Donna, first off, thanks for hosting us. You do some amazing work with your PR clients, and it's great that you created a forum like this where women can show that they continue to innovate, create, and do what they do. Like, age is not a limit here. And definitely, I think that's one of the things that has been a driver for Pigment International. I, along with Phyllis North, who is also a woman over 50, started this organization in 2018. And the love for me came for, I have been collecting art all through my corporate career, and I never considered myself a collector, but I just loved having images that reflected people of color. And I wanted to have that in my home. So everywhere I would go, everywhere I would travel, I would seek out art exhibitions or go to museums or even go to flea markets. I think the first
Mm,
pieces of art I bought when I was really young were from flea markets and posters. So even before I could buy art from fabulous artists like the ones here with us today, I was always looking for those images. And then I had the long corporate career in corporate communications, which I think set up the basis for this because I was in the cable television industry, and that industry was all about marketing and PR and building brands. So those were the experiences that I had over 20 plus years: how to build a brand, how to set up a platform, how to do advertiser related things. So after I left the corporate business, I started doing PR and media on my own, much like you do. And
mhm,
I ended up starting to get clients in the arts. One of my first bigger clients was the African Festival of the Arts, and that's been happening here for more than 35 years in Chicago, and they were a big client of mine. So, and then I had the Harlem Fine Art Show, which was a national traveling show. And what that did, it actually put me together with these artists. And what I realized was that if you're going to buy art, that whole process is enhanced when you meet an artist and you get to talk with
mm,
them and you get to learn what they do. So it adds so much more meaning to the things I'm putting on my wall. And I wanted other people to have that experience too. So in 2017, we decided to go to the biggest art show in the country, and that's Art Miami Week. Everybody calls it Art Basel, but Art Basel is only one component of Art Week in Miami. There is art all over that city. That city gives itself over to art. So Phyllis and I went there. We experienced everything. And one of the things that we saw very clearly was a lot of artists were coming and they didn't quite know what to do. They were partying or they were going to shows, but they also wanted an opportunity to show their work. And so after we came back from that December, I sat here and I thought about it. I'm like, what if we gave them an opportunity to showcase their work? So we undertook, we started, I sat and I kind of put it together an outline, much like a marketing plan. So if we had an organization, what would it do? And it would be about elevating the visibility of these artists of color, giving them an opportunity to showcase their work, and most of all, telling their stories, because at my core, I'm a storyteller. I've been a writer my whole life. I was a journalism major in school, and I know that publicity and these kinds of things help boost artists' careers. Yeah. So taking the one thing I've always known how to do is write and weave that into the mix. I think I sat here for like a week just trying to think of what's a great name for this. And when I pulled up a list of art terms, and when I got to pigment, the whole thing about it being the basis of the paints that artists use, plus we're pigmented people, it just clicked immediately. So we started it and we started reaching out to these artists that I had been meeting through these PR engagements. And almost immediately we had 15 artists who said, hey, we'll be involved, we're all in. And so for that whole year, we planned a show in 2018 in Miami. And we went to the Brickell neighborhood to a place called the Penthouse. And it was a 9th floor building, and it was the 9th floor penthouse. And we had a space there and we mounted a show. Now, in hindsight, it might not have been the smartest thing to do. It cost a lot of money and it didn't make a ton. But boy, we mounted a beautiful show. We printed our first Pigment magazine. So it gave us this big lift and big visibility, that we've continued to build on over these 5 years. So
now you had images to share.
Absolutely. I have the best pictures in the entire world. But we took 15 Chicago artists to that show and mounted a beautiful show. We made relationships there in Miami that continue to this day, because our team just left Miami last week. They were there all week, and we continue to do that. We continue to produce the magazine. We launched a not-for-profit so we could get grant money. And so this year we're on our 4th magazine. And out of the 4, 3 of them have had either awards or honorable mentions for their cover. And we continue to add great artists. Both Lammy and Jade just joined us in the last year or so. So that continuing relationship with artists. We traveled globally. In 2022, we took a leap of faith and we went to the Venice Biennale, which is the largest art show in the entire world and the oldest, because we followed a gallery, a Black female-owned gallery there who was exhibiting 8 artists, which was fairly unheard of. And the artist representing the United States was a Chicagoan based in New York, Simone Lee. So we got to follow that progression. This year, we took a trip to the 154 Contemporary African Art Show in Marrakesh, Morocco. and we followed a group of artists there. So we're very Chicago based because Chicago is a great place for the arts, but we try to have also a global focus and look at the bigger issues. So that's just a little bit about, the journey that we've taken. And we just sat yesterday and did our 2024 planning. So we're in the thick of us getting ready for the new year.
Oh, that's great. And where will you be heading in 2024?
We don't know yet. The Biennale is an every 2-year event.
Mhm.
So literally from the relationships that we developed, our group of artists, we have a group of artists that have a studio in Navy Pier here in Chicago, because we were publicizing them so steadily, they got an invitation to be in the Biennale. Now they're working now to see if they can actually, get there, because it happens in April and that's a quick turnaround. They were exhibiting in Miami, but they got that invitation. And we reached out to the Biennale about being a media partner for them, because that's our core. We are an advertiser generated platform. So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out every week, almost all year long. If I got enough energy, I'll produce it all 52 weeks. But we give news and information 52 weeks of the year. We do the magazine once a year because it's real labor intensive. But we're always communicating. And what I saw happen was, when I launched this newsletter, we were getting a 15% open rate. Today, we get over a 42% open rate for that newsletter.
Amazing.
So, we bring value to advertisers. The Smithsonian advertised in our magazine last year. So, we bring a very big value add as a media platform to people that are interested in reaching our engaged audience around Black art.
That's amazing. Congratulations. And so hold up the magazine.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So this
They're
is our
beautiful.
cover from Venice. And this artist, Tani Chapman, was one of the ones that exhibited at the Biennale. She's an amazing artist. Go on Instagram, look up Tani Chapman. Go on Instagram and look up Pigment INTL, and follow us on Instagram as well. We're continually trying to build our audiences. So yeah, this is the most recent magazine. And you can get this on Shopify. Our shop is We Love Art 2022 on Shopify. So you can order that, plus you can order art, you can order paraphernalia. So we also have a Shopify site as well.
Okay, and I'll add all of the links to your page on the 50
Thank you.
website. Lammy and
Oh yes, let me tee up.
okay, all right, you do. You go.
I'm gonna tee up Jade first.
Okay.
Because you were talking about her as the only one under 50 here. But what we found with Pigment is that, a lot of the artists we work with are younger artists. I think some of them, when they started with us, were barely, were in their 20s. But we believe in helping push their careers. So it's really important, the work that we do with young artists. And when Jade came on board, she's always been so engaged. She's done events with us across the city. Most recently, she was part of a talk for Black Fine Art Month, which we launched in 2019. And I just find her so mature and poised, and she's gotten a lot of recognition in the city. So it has been just an honor for her to be a part of what we do. So please.
Welcome. Yeah. And I just want to chime in that I get a lot of feedback, a lot of information and comments from women under the age of 50 that are really learning from these stories that we've been sharing in these interviews. So I'm really excited that we actually have someone here representing.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Do you want to share a little bit about your work, or?
Yeah. So I am an interdisciplinary artist and designer. I primarily work with fibers and textiles, but I also do a lot of sourcing of found objects and family heirlooms and kind of combine those things together. I'm also, like Patricia, very interested in storytelling and world building, and use writing a lot in my practice. And that's kind of been the basis of me just trying to flesh out this world that I want my inner child and future children to live in, and kind of bring that to life through the art that I'm making.
Is there anything you can maybe like hold up or anything of something?
Yeah. Like, my studio is so empty right now. I actually, if anyone's in Chicago, I have a big show up at a gallery called Co-Prosperity in Bridgeport. So I'm like, I don't have a ton with me, but my website is sexandthestudio.com, like Sex and the City.
Mhm.
I can.
But what is it? Because this is the one that I have.
Yeah, you can. There's probably a few images on there as well. I was an
Mhm.
artist in resident with Chicago Artist Coalition last year, so I just kind of wrapped that up at the end of the year. But I've put my personal website in the chat.
Okay, great. I'll share that. So everybody can go and take a look. Oh. All right, there we go. And Lammy, you want to share a little about your work and your background?
I was primarily a painter, and the paintings that I did was portraits. I had a couple of series. One was called One Eye Tulips. I would only paint one eye and tulips, but it was always about emotions, particularly about women. And then around 2016, I went to Barcelona with my husband, and I was teaching. I was doing an artist residency, and I was teaching myself how to do silver point and working with metals. It's actually drawing with a metal wire. And it dates back to Da Vinci, 15th, 16th century. One of the things that I loved about doing this is the fact that I love Da Vinci, but I didn't see likeness, blackness. And I was curious to see what metal point would look like, or silver, predominantly in gold, would look like with black skin. So what I did was build from, and these are different ones where this one, hold on, this one's black. So I would actually build up from a dark surface. And I would use the shine of dark skin in the metal. So I'm actually going in reverse, where people would use a light surface and build it with the darkness of the medium. I actually use the reflection of the metal to bring out the beauty in black skin. So it's BIPOC, but it's a lot of more dark black skin looking gorgeous in with pure metal. So that's
And Lammy, I was fortunate enough to go to her studio and see her work, and it was just a no-brainer. And since we've met her, she did an exhibition with us. We partner with art fairs in the city. So Expo Chicago, the other art fair, the 57th Street Art Fair, we bring our magazines and we display art. So she worked with us at the other art fair and had some great, and did a sale there of one of her works. And then this summer we were in Martha's Vineyard, and she came to Martha's Vineyard and sold one of her works to a Ghanaian emissary who, and it was a piece on it was done
brown paper bags.
You have to tell me about that. And he literally rolled it up and took it off the wall. So it resonates so well with people, and it's just really exciting. Tell them about the paper bag piece.
So right before I left literally 6 months to a year before I left New Orleans to go to Barcelona. I was doing brown paper bag paintings, and there is a story, especially in New Orleans, where the brown paper bag, like just think of just a regular brown paper bag of like a lunch, bag, was actually used black on black is a colorism thing, where if you were darker than the brown paper bag, you weren't allowed in a certain bars, churches. You weren't worthy to get married to, even sororities or fraternities. And this is something, it's just showing how people treated each other based on the pigment of their skin. And so, and to tell you the truth, I didn't know about it because I grew up in New York. And most of the people I grew up with were either Jamaican or they've been in New York for a while. So it wasn't passed down. But when you get to certain southern states, there's a whole nother history that you actually learn. And that was one of the things I learned is, and they still talk about it. If somebody is not talking to you a certain way, some people will assume the only reason why they're being talked to that particular way is because they're too dark to be considered respect. So they would turn around and they would say, "Are you brown paper bagging me?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're still, you're thinking that." And I had to do these paper bags. The one that sold was 95 brown paper bags made into a tapestry. And then I put one of the darkest women with the most Afrocentric features on there. And then I made her background like lightly gold, but yet the brown paper bag. And I just wanted people to see how gorgeous she was in her natural state. And she is just as beautiful as somebody who would be a lighter skin, who was accepted in society.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the brown paper bag was like a really big thing.
Yeah, it was amazing. For Jade, tell the audience a little bit, because you're different. You don't just do acrylic on canvas. You do a lot of installation work. You do audio, multimedia. And I was thinking of one particularly. You have a piece called Salvation and Glory. Where were you when I needed you? How do you come up with those ideas? Because they are so outside the box, and there are things here and bells and all these different things. Tell them what's in that piece and where that came from.
Yeah, so that piece initially, the title actually came from a Stevie Wonder song that I was listening to, and it was part of the lyrics. But I take a lot of inspiration from like funk and disco music and some R&B music, and that also helps to inform some of the pieces I'm working on. I feel like I kind of make like a little playlist every time I'm working on a body of work. But that piece specifically, I made it around the time that I had lost my maternal grandparents, and I was thinking about their home and like my place in their home and the way that their home's kind of oriented and where their porch and balcony and stuff is. I kind of wanted to emulate the feeling that I would have sitting in their living room, looking out of the window to see like my grandma just sitting on the porch, like facing the sun. And when I first installed it in the gallery, I had a sculpture of a sun that I kind of did that sat on the one side of this Salvation and Glory piece, where it's like a kind of like a altar leg with a window frame. The sun was on one side, and a tapestry that has my grandmother and mother and great grandmother on it is on the other side of it. So depending on where you're standing, you can either look through the window and see the sun, or you can look through and see their faces on the tapestry, and the materials of the sun are also mirroring the materials of the tapestry. So it's all kind of like a full installation, kind of just like experiential moment when you're standing there. But I have a background in doing some set design and visual merchandising, all of that. So that's where a lot of my techniques come from.
Did you go to school to learn how to? Did you start with painting, or was it the set design that brought you into art?
Yeah, so I never did painting ever. I started in business and then moved into sculpture and art history at the same time. I initially wanted to go to school to be a fashion designer, so I've always had this love for textiles and worked in visual merchandising because of that. But as I got deeper into art, I just kind of grew to love that even more, and just all the different possibilities that laid within that. I really just always loved to build things, and so it was whatever I could build and make and involve fabric in that was where I felt at home.
I want to try and see if I could share the screen so I can show what you're talking about, but it might not work. So give me 1 second. Let's see if it works.
I know the technology is always the most challenging thing. There we go.
You can see it?
You did it.
I did it? All right. Okay, so there we go. This was the art piece that Jade was just talking about.
Yeah, I think that's so cool that she comes to it from such a different perspective. And I think I like that about all of our artists. They all have this kind of specialty thing. So with Lammy, it's the metal point. There's Jade's installations. We have artists that do murals, in addition to painting. So this whole thing about the art world, I think you learn something new all the time. And I'm always, I didn't come from this with any kind of background in art, just knowing that I loved it. So for me, it's a matter of reading and I watch documentaries about art. I've seen the Basquiat, I've seen the Gauguin, I've seen, I watch documentaries about artists, all kinds of artists, to kind of get perspective, because everybody is influenced by somebody. There's a famous artist, her name is escaping me, a Black artist, but she did an exhibit in Paris because she was influenced by Monet. So there's linkages across the art world. And I think it's always interesting to find out who inspires artists. And maybe Lammy is Da Vinci. And so maybe Jade, who are some of the artists that have inspired you?
A handful of them. Some Chicago-based people like Nick Cave and Ebony G. Patterson, Colleen Smith, Nicolene Thomas, tons of influences there. I've always just been drawn to things that are really like colorful and things that have the shine and the adornment and something that'll really like catch your eye. It makes my inner child sing.
Yeah. Those were great pieces of Lammy's. Did you want to talk about any of them?
Oh wait, let me put them back. 1 minute. I'm going out of I'm having fun now with my my trigger finger. All right. Can you see it?
So, yep. So the pieces that you see, they're actually on black surfaces. The black is like 99% light absorption, and then the silver, which looks white to you, is actually pure silver, and it's drawn with the silver wire, alas, silver point. And these pieces, the ones that you're seeing right now, I did them during my Hyde Park Art Center cohort program when I was part of it. I did about 4 of them, and they're 4 feet by 4 feet. One of them, the first one, the one at the top of the page, was actually collected in the permanent collection of the Hillard Art Museum, which is the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, in their permanent collection. And I'm their first living artist, and it felt great because I'm like, yay, we get to, living artists are actually starting to be, celebrated. The one right there that I think you just clicked on, where the city, go back, go down where it looks like the city. That is, I think, and I know it is, the largest silver point in the world, if not in the world, definitely of Black people, in my old neighborhood in Harlem. And it has pictures of my mother, my father, my brothers and sisters, all in different ages. Like my father is holding my sister, who's 4 years older than me, and her daughter, who is literally in her mid 30s now, is the little girl in the window on the bottom floor. A friend of mine's daughter in the top right hand, left corner, your left, is she plays violin. I thought that was the most beautiful thing to see. So she's practicing. But and then you have my mother in the window, but also down on the street. And it's, it's just showing you how a community is a real a black community. Is there's no drugs there yet, because that was like kind of before crack really started kicking in. But there's a little girl standing in the bottom, and she's dancing to the violin player in the window, and she's not being sexualized. The little boy that is a little bit further down where the fire hydrant is, he's being a little boy. He's not being demonized for wanting to play a little, like, what do you call it? He's playing a little sports car in the middle of the street. Literally, children being children. Mm-hmm. And men who are actually at the urban porch, like the stoop right there, we call the urban porch, they actually are brothers, and it's just showing you the community. Also, in the top window, we didn't have the hair salons. I remember at the time I was growing up, we actually got our hair done in the kitchen of somebody's house, and so I put that in there so you can see we have so many dynamics in our community. And I did that all in silver to show the beauty that when you walk by it, it moves with you, and to actually celebrate this community that I grew up in, that I'm still very fond of in Harlem, New York.
Yeah, I got to see this piece up close and personal. Not all the panels. I saw some of the panels, but it is huge, and it is just such a dynamic piece. When we were at the other art fair, what we would ask visitors to do is to look at it through their phone screen, because then you get a real feel for, for what she's accomplished and the intricacy of those designs. So.
The phone, thanks, Pat, for saying that, because the way it's done, that when you use your phone, you're actually able to, the lens in the phone takes light from all other. Your naked eye does one thing, but the phone takes a whole nother feeling to it, and you can actually move around, and it looks like you're actually looking at a real photorealistic feeling of it. So, the depth of it is built in. And, when I create it, it's built in. So it's a fun thing to do. It's a fun thing to stand in front of. And I call it an experience. You go through an experience, and each time you do it, you'll see something different. Every time you walk by it, you'll see something different.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Do you want me to show anything else? Any other types?
Maybe if you could go back to Jade's site.
Yeah.
She's got some work there that I think is really cool. You want to tell them about the blueprints, Jade? What are they called?
When I think of home, it should be closer to the top on the website.
Okay, give me a minute.
Because again, that just shows another dynamic. And tell them a little bit, the materials. Is that on paper? It's on paper.
Yeah, they are on paper, and it's funny to me how that came together, because it was intended to be a fabric piece when I first started kind of concepting it, and I'm very happy that we went with paper.
Yeah, I think it's just it's kind of another tool. And it shows that artists can do a variety of things. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this first image is a full picture of like the full installation. Each page is actually roughly, 26 by 40. So they're actually quite large prints. And when you put all 15 of them together like that, the wall probably spans close to like 10 feet. So it's quite a large installation. But these prints serve as the actual blueprints for the world that I've been building within my practice. I wanted to just kind of take all of the different like religious and spiritual teachings that I was learning, things that I learned during my upbringing, questions that I was posing during this time. This was all created at the same time as the last piece that we looked at when I had lost my grandparents right before the pandemic, or sorry, right during the pandemic. I included some images of my hands with my grandmother's hands, both my maternal and paternal grandmothers. One of them is my hand with her while she was actually laying in her coffin that I took during the funeral. Another one is with my paternal grandmother's hand while she lays in her bed. She unfortunately suffered from 2 strokes at the beginning of the pandemic, so she's been bedridden ever since. So there was just a lot of grief that I was going through during that time, and this piece, it kind of helped me to flesh through all of that and figure out, what lessons and memories are worth holding on to and what I can kind of release, and like what's the essential parts that I need for kind of creating this space within myself and externally.
Very nice. Donna, I'm going to pull up something else for you to send if I can figure out how to do this. So you keep talking. I'm going to.
If you just send me the link in a comment.
Okay, I will. Give me just a second.
And I'll just keep scrolling. Jade, if you want to keep talking through this, I'll keep scrolling while we're waiting for Pat.
I was actually going to mention also that these pieces are cyanotype prints. And so the interesting thing about cyanotypes is that it's kind of a print media process as well as a photography process. So you have to actually like coat the papers in a dark room and expose them in a way that you would with a photograph. But this is the method that was traditionally used to create blueprints when they were first making them. So it was my first time actually doing this sort of process, but since then I've gotten a pretty good hold on it and been able to do a few other series in this method. And yeah, it was just a really fun project for me to create and try to explore some of my explore how to show some of my writings in a different way outside of just like reading them for video or audio pieces or displaying the actual words on the wall, and kind of combine some of my like research processes in a more public platform.
It's beautiful.
And Donna, I just sent you that link. This will take you to the latest magazine. I would love for people to get a feel for what it looks like. So hopefully it'll open okay.
Okay, give me a moment and we'll see what happens. Nope, I need access.
No problem. Lamy, where are you exhibiting currently? You have some exhibits coming up?
I just got into the Black Creativity Show, and there's another set of artwork that I do that's a fusion between painting and metal point. And one of those pieces got into the show.
Which one? Because I have the site up. I'll show it.
It would be where the fusion is, and She Wears Her Joy.
And a little background on Black creativity. Again, Chicago has such a rich history in the arts that goes back 50 years. And it's a juried art show that's held at the Museum of Science and Industry. If you know anything about Chicago history, the Museum of Science and Industry was the building that was left at the end of the 1893 World's Fair. And it became the Museum of Science and Industry, one of our most popular attractions. So they bring in artists, they bring in students, they mesh science and art and technology. And it's one of the most longstanding and most, one of the biggest galas that happens in Chicago, kicks it off at the end of January. So to be a juried artist and be invited there is a really big deal. Artists all over the country.
Brilliant.
And artists, we've worked with at least 4 or 5 artists that have been part of that juried show. So it is just an amazing show. And then to delve into the history a little bit more, at the Museum of Science and Industry in 1940, they hosted the Negro exhibition, which was to mark whatever year that was since slavery. and they had artists there. So the city is so rich. The other landmark here in Chicago is the Southside Community Art Center, which is now 83 years old, and it is the longest continually running Black art center in the country. And today they have, they have a whole new crop of young people that are doing programs there. And the building itself is historic. They purchased that building by literally doing fundraisers. And they did this thing called the Mile of Dimes, and people would give dimes and they line them up. They helped them buy that building. And it's in the process of having a remodel now, and they've gotten funds so they can update the center, keep the historic part, because the walls of their gallery have the nail holes of every exhibit that's ever been there. So that's historic. But they're going to add new parts and renovate and modernize. So again, I think having an organization like Pigment come out of Chicago is just so relevant because of that kind of history. So that's beautiful work, Lemmy. I think that's really exciting. I think they should put that on the cover of the program.
It is.
From you to God's ear, but I do have one other show. It'll be in June, and it'll be at the International Museum of Surgical Science, and that's on Lakeshore. I think it's Lincoln Park. It's like right off of Lakeshore North, and I'm creating a series of these, which is dancers, the muscles of dancers. So it's taken me a while, but I'm building up my, my inventory for the show to do this.
Donna, we'll let you click on that Google Drive link.
Let me see.
I might have to give you permission.
Yeah, you have to give me permission.
Okay, let me go in and get that for you.
But in the meantime, I will share some of your Pigment magazine that I online. That's online.
Donna Cravata, there you are.
There I am.
Okay. So it'll come up shortly. Oh yeah, if you go to the Shopify site, they can at least see the covers. And then if you get the Google link, we can see the pages. So
okay.
Donna, you're working this technology.
I'm working this technology. Give me one sec. That's the Shopify site?
Yes.
And I'm gonna open it up.
And then go to magazines and they can see all the covers. So.
All right. All right. I'm there.
Okay.
Let me share. Okay, can you see it?
Oh, yes,
yep.
There it comes. So if you click on order today.
All right.
And then it'll show you all and then scroll here.
Okay.
So the first one you see is the one that I just showed you.
Okay.
And then come down a little further. When you go on the site, if you want to order, you can. The fall winter issue, that is the cover artist for the one we did last year. She's actually in Nigeria. And the way I found her is being on Instagram. And I just thought her work was so distinctive. She really rather than representing people as a color, black, white, whatever, she turns them into these mosaics. Her name is Rewa, R-E-W-A, and she's a very prominent artist in Nigeria. And it just so happens after I found her that she was in the States during Art Basel. So I got to meet her. You know, some artists we don't get to meet. But that's Rewa's cover. And if you go back and go down a little further.
Okay.
We'll show you the cover of, so this was our first cover, the red one. That was the first magazine we ever did. And it was done by a Chicago artist named James Nelson, who I think does such fabulous work. And he delves into Afrofuturism. I don't know, your audience might know who Octavia Butler is, and she was a science fiction writer who delved into Afrofuturism, and we have quite a few artists here in Chicago who follow that same kind of pattern. So that's our first one. And then there's one more.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, keep coming down. You're doing
Okay, there
good.
it goes. There, this
The
one.
gallery guide, you can click on that.
Okay.
So we launched this in this year, just this year. And what we wanted to do was give people a resource so that they could find galleries and art fairs and services across the country that reflected the Black art aesthetic. You know, because we think it's for everybody. You can be anyone. Those statues you see there are at a gallery in Memphis called Watercolors Gallery. The artist is Woodrow Nash, and I feel very pleased and fortunate to have a piece of work by Woodrow. And he's a sculptor based out of Akron, Ohio. He's been doing this for probably 40 or better years, and they sell his work. A number of galleries do, but we wanted to give people a resource. So if they were going somewhere, because like me, I would travel. So if I'm in San Francisco, can I find an African-American owned art gallery? So that's what it does. It gives you links. And we also, keeping with our profile of storytelling, we actually wrote profiles of some of these galleries, watercolors being one of them. And then if you go back,
Okay.
I'll show you the other cover. And come down a little further. And the white one, the white one is a nationally renowned artist named Deborah Roberts, who deals primarily in collage. She's had her work in national magazines like Harper's Bazaar, and she actually let us come in and interview her and profile her work. So those are all on our site, along with art and other things as well. So wanted you to be able to take a look at those.
Really nice. Really
Thank you. Thank
so,
you.
Does anybody want to share anything else from the websites? Any other of your art or anything?
Oh, and so actually, if you go to my site, there is one link on the side that I just want to point out for a second.
Okay. So hold on one sec. Let me just. Okay. All right.
Okay, so if you scroll on the side towards the bottom, there should be a link that says Bloom. Yeah, Bloom. Yeah. So I have a collective called the Black Bloom Project, and right now we have some work up together with my pieces from my own practice at the gallery in Bridgeport, Co-Prosperity. So if anyone is in Chicago,
It's not showing.
you said something?
It's not. I'll fix it. Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go to the show in Bridgeport, it'll be a combination of work from both myself and from the collective with my business partner, Cristobal Martinez. We work together to put this display up. So just wanted to shout that out for a second. And I also have some of the blueprint pieces on display at the Bronzeville Winery.
I just passed it today, the Bronzeville Winery. I love that place.
Yeah, really great spot.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. That was beautiful.
Oh, sorry. So what's been coming to my mind as I'm listening to this amazing conversation is like, what is the impact of your art in the communities where you live or where you show your art? And, you know, how is it helping people? And like, you know, what is the impact and the changes that you see happening through the art, through your visions?
No, I think that's a great question. I'm going to leave it to the artist.
Jay, you go first.
No, myself, with my collective, we actually got an award through DCASE, which is the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events here in the city of Chicago. Last year, they launched a program called Together We Heal Creative Place Program, and it was specifically for artists to do creative collaborations in some of the underserved neighborhoods that we have around the city. And so my collective is working with a Black woman-owned farm and nonprofit called We Sow, We Grow. They're based in West Pullman, which is a very historic neighborhood here. And we're doing a bunch of installations and projects that are kind of tying together textiles and fabric with earthwork and agriculture. And just seeing the community's reaction to some of the pieces that we've put over there has been just such a joyous moment. So when you see people kind of envision the neighborhood differently, take more pride in their community and also just in their own skills and talents. So it's been really rewarding. And I think that has been kind of the biggest benefit to me of the work that I've been doing, more so than some of the things that go into galleries. Because like, I think being a professional artist, on one end, hearing the feedback and how the work has impacted you, or how it impacts people when they see it in a gallery or museum or something, that's always really nice to hear. But that's the thing I'm more used to. So now getting to do it in a community where people aren't paying attention to art as much or don't necessarily think of some of the things they create as art, and getting to hear how it's changing their mindset has been more fulfilling to me.
And I'll share something too. We started a project last year through my partner Phyllis initiated with the Gary Comer Youth Center. So we've been able to have our professional artists mentor their student artists. They've done works together, they've done murals together. And right now we just had a meeting yesterday about a project in the Grand Crossings neighborhood where we can work and do murals and underpasses to create more of an inviting space for these kids that traverse these underpasses to get back and forth to school. Right now, they don't look like too much and they're run down. And then we have another partner, the Inglewood Art Center. They've done some murals that are going to abut the ones that are going to start. But this project will also employ students. So they've gotten a grant that for a year will employ students, and they will be the initiators of this project. They'll do the designs and they'll say what they want in the community, and then we'll work with them to get the professional artists to assist them in it. But they're driving that project, and it makes that neighborhood safer. It gives them, safe passage through sometimes neighborhoods that aren't so great. So the south side of Chicago more reflects the things that happen on the north side. So that's another community impact. And I just think Comer Youth Center is doing such amazing work in the community. And we're really fortunate to have them as a partner.
That's great. That's really good.
And then there's me, who actually is just selfish in being a artist.
You are.
Well, no, you know what? Back in the day,
about the representation of the block.
No, I'm so honored that everybody has done that. Most of the stuff that the outreach stuff, I did a lot of it in Brooklyn. And I love this. I love supporting the other artists in the community because, people, it unified a lot of people. It unified the families and the businesses and everybody together through art. But then I stopped being an artist. I didn't get a chance to actually hone in on what I wanted to do. So and actually my husband said it to me. He was like, all these little things that you're doing, you're putting so much energy in it and you're not really getting anything much out of it. And that goes for making small stuff as opposed to big stuff. And as well as, working with other people is a good chance. Your intentions are good, but the people, you're trying to motivate. And I'm like, I think Patricia knows me by now. I'm a huge ass cheerleader, for people to do stuff. But it sucks when you're the only cheerleader, in certain. So I made a focus to go, you know what? You want to be excellent, focus on your excellence. Okay. I'm at the age now where I can, but there was something that really moved me. I had a roommate at the time in New Orleans. She had a young daughter. She was 12 years old. She goes to the museum, and the museum didn't have many female artists. So she asked her father about why aren't there many female artists out there? And he said to her, his daughter, he goes, well, women artists aren't that good.
Yeah.
And that pissed me off because, number one, you just told your daughter that no matter how much she could be good, she's not going to be good enough. And I was so, but that really gave me fire to sit there and go, well, you know what? You're mediocre. You're just going to have to stay in your lane. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I can move people through art. And that's the best thing I can do.
That's exactly how this whole thing started.
And Donna, that's a whole nother hour-long conversation about women being kind of relegated to certain parts in the art community. I told you about the group of female artists that went to Scope Miami, the women's live art studio. They operate a studio on Navy Pier. And that is their whole raison d'etre, is to elevate women and support women in the arts. And they had an amazing show there. So that's a whole nother conversation. But I wanted to invite Lammy and Jay, if you want to do something with us with the kids at Comer, we'd love to, have you come in and work with them. So I'll come back to you about that later. But yeah, that whole women in the arts thing can be something. But, people like Amy Sherrill and Deborah Roberts and Micheline Thomas, and I can't even begin to name all the women, or the women that went to Venice, Tawny Chapman, Delita Mart. They are definitely the antithesis of that whole premise, because these women are excellent. They're badass and they're doing their thing. So
yeah. And when I started this, that was what got me started. I was pissed off at the Forbes 50 over 50 because I was like, what about all the people I know? What about me?
Right.
So the whole thing was to highlight and shine a light on people that are, over 50, that are women, that are like, on the front lines of life, of business, of art, of doing, of living, of surviving and creating. And Pat was one of the first people that I thought of, because I knew that not only has she changed her own trajectory of her life and the way that she worked, but she's opening up these opportunities for so many women. I know that you work not only with women, Pat, but I'm focused on women at the moment. But
I do have to tell you something about Pat.
Okay.
There was something that happened before I met Pat. I didn't have to tell her much, but she knew what it was. I left the gallery. And the moment I met Pat, the freedom of just being who I am in my art, doing what I do best, and Pat gave me that the opportunity to just be.
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful feeling to feel. You know how you would quit a job, and then you're like, you want to say, fuck that job, and you want to come in and throw your, I just walked out the door, and before you know it, the moment the door closed, that other door opened and the window and everything was opening, and I was like, oh shit, I should have done this a while ago. Just because she let me be me, just be the artist. She trusted me. She got what I was doing. That's all I wanted.
Wow.
And she is so community oriented. The beauty about it is that she reaches out and she gets you going, and and you want to support her too. And so to me, I'm like, she was the most beautiful thing. Her and Phyllis were the most beautiful thing I ever had in 2023. Ever.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I echo that. Coming to work with Pigment was probably the first time I felt what it felt like to be in an artistic space where I didn't necessarily have to defend my artistic choices. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
explain it, but you don't have to defend it. And it's like, oh, this is what it feels like to be in a place where they actually support you. It's like, I don't have to try to fit in here. It's just, here's the space. Welcome.
Yeah. Phyllis, you're listening out there, I know.
Hey, Phyllis.
And it was important for me to share this with my community because my community does not have a lot of art in it. And I thought it would be a way to open up to an entirely new audience of people. And maybe that would make a difference.
Donna, thank you so much for
Thank
hosting
you.
us. And anybody can reach out to us at any time. We'd love to share the things we've learned and we continue to learn.
Yeah, and I will load up their spotlight page, the spotlight page for this panel with all of the links and everything that have been shared throughout this call. Pat will provide me with everything, and we'll put up some art, both Lemmy's and Jade's art, and anything, Pat, that you want to share, some of the magazine covers or anything like that. But we'll make the page very visual, and hopefully bring some more new people, new eyes to the work that you do and what you bring into the world, because it's very much appreciated.
And a shout out to Aisha Cravata. I saw she
Yes, she did. Aisha,
Hi.
my lovely sister-in-law, is how I met Pat years ago. And we
Yes.
stayed connected on social media all these years. I think we met at the wedding.
Yes, we did. We met at her wedding. She's in the dance world, so another arts person. So
Yeah. And she's married to my brother, who's a photographer. So we've got all the bases covered.
yes.
So thank you. This hour just flew by, and it's been an absolute pleasure to learn more about all of you and your work and everything that you're doing. And I hope you'll stay connected, and I will share the recordings with you. And we will be back next week on Wednesday with another interview. And we're going to be having monthly panels every month, starting in January. So thank you all for joining and for sharing, and have a very happy holiday.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for inviting us. Bye.